What's up, people? Chris with a K here, Chris Griffin here, Horns Down Podcast, and Mr. Sooners 360 himself. Like, subscribe, do all those different things on both channels. As you know, our third party to this is Jason, but this right here is just a recruiting show. So as you guys are coming in or whatnot, just giving you the rundown. We're going to be doing this every Monday, hopefully every Monday, maybe some Tuesdays, but mostly every Monday. We will be doing a short pod that is dedicated to nothing but recruiting. On the heels of this win against Michigan, as you already know, this was a huge recruiting weekend for OU. There have been tons of names that have been tossed out there, a lot of speculation about stuff, but as we always try to do, we get Chris Mason on here to give you guys the hopefully the honest to God truth, right? Looks like we got a guy that has been fonged to us kind of out of the blue. I think technically he's an athlete, but big wide receiver is where I see him at. But we'll let Chris Mason come in and do the honors of just talking about this weekend and what to look for next.
Just a quick recap. Last time we were on Monday, Xavier Okafuleze had not committed yet. He's committed to OU. He committed to OU on Wednesday. 6'4", 200-pound wide receiver. Sky-high potential, NFL-type measurables. He plays for Rejoice Academy, Christian Academy in Tulsa. And we're going to talk about that academy again when we talk about some of the guys visiting. But he's in the house. He's now an Oklahoma Sooner, giving OU 2 wide receivers for the 2026 class. So to continue with 2026, let's just go over the 2 names that have sort of floating out there after Michigan. So Daniel McMorris, the offensive tackle from Norman North. He has not officially been offered by OU yet. And until we get an official offer indication, there's no signs that my cat has decided to join the broadcast. There's no signs that we're going to see that until he gets an offer, he can't verbal. I'll be back just one sec.
Well, guys, hey, look, since we're in here, gonna give you guys just a little small mini preview. I've seen on OU Twitter, and I've seen a couple other places that people are a little bit spooked by this.
Unlike Jason's dog, my cat is not quite so podcast photogenic.
No, you're good. But yeah, no, look, guys, that's just foreshadowing. We'll talk about this Temple team here in a little bit. But Chris Mason, get back to it.
Yeah, sorry about that. So Daniel McMorris, doesn't have an offer yet. Bill Biedenbaugh was at his game Friday night. Norman North didn't have a great game. Lost to Norman. The James kid who's going to Washington, their best wide receiver, got tossed out of the game early on. So we'll see if OU ends up offering McMorris. If they do, I think we could have the chance of a quick turnaround and a verbal commitment. I'm pretty sure he was at the game Saturday, but I haven't seen any evidence. I haven't seen any direct evidence from him about that. Last thing to just wrap up 2026, KJ Ford was rumored to be visiting. I've got no indication he came up, and the main source for that was Josh from Sooner Scoop, and it looks like, and Josh on Saturday morning was indicating he thought that Ford was maybe not going to come up. So that's 2026 done. So the rest of this update is going to be all 2027 guys.
Okay.
So we'll start with the guy that you just talked about who has been fonged to OU. He is 2027 wide receiver. He's a wide receiver. He plays wide receiver more than he does play cornerback. He did play cornerback as a junior. As a sophomore, there's some highlights of him doing that, but he's a wide receiver. His name is Demar Dezurn. It's Dezeurn. So Dezurn is what I'm going to go with until I hear another variant of it.
I'm not going to lie. When I first saw it, I said, wait, but DeMar DeRozan? What?
Yeah, the somehow OU's channeling players to the Thunder, doing a Steve Ballmer thing under the radar there. He's from Palisades, California. That's where he's playing this year. He played somewhere else last year. In the opener, his season opener, he had 13 catches for 202 yards and 4 touchdowns. He is ranked in the top 100 by ESPN, top 150 by 247 and On3. He posted a sub 10.3 100-meter time last year. He has routinely posted sub 10.5 times. And when you watch his sophomore highlights, the speed translates to his highlights. He had 3 kickoff return special teams touchdowns last year, and you can just see the speed. You can see him accelerating away from players. You can watch that in the highlights as well. It just jumps off the screen in the special teams plays. So I'm not quite sure. This was under the radar. I didn't have this as a guide to. I mean, there were 45 top players for 2027 on campus over the weekend. I did not have this as a guy that just leapt out at me that something big was happening. But obviously, when Emmett Jones is posting a photo of what is clearly California with palm trees, and you've got Hayes Forsett posting the Brent from the plane doing the punching boomer sign, something's happened, and it's obviously something from California. If you're not following Stacy Ford on Twitter, the OU staff member under Nagy's team who is in charge of like high school recruiting, start following him. So something's about to come down. Steve Wiltfong, Adam Gorney have all posted predictions to OU. So something's about to happen in the next day or two. He's probably just waiting on a graphic from Hayes Forsett. And this would be a big addition. And it leads into the 2027 visitors that I want to talk about. And that starts with Mr. Peyton Houston. He was on campus, OU's only quarterback offer for 2027. He's deciding on 9/15. A speedster, big play wide receiver, Verbeling, being around. Maybe he was around Peyton Houston this weekend. Maybe I'm looking for a story that's not there, but it's probably not. Doesn't hurt that OU is probably adding a top 100 wide receiver days before Peyton Houston is deciding where he wants to go. Looks like an OU versus USC battle. Everyone's kind of wondering where LSU is going quarterback-wise, and I think they're going to go focusing on Colton Nussmeier, who's Garrett's younger brother. He's a lefty. Not sure he's quite as highly ranked, but that looks like where LSU is. Peyton is going to the LSU-Florida game on Saturday. That's been reported by a number of recruiting services. I don't think LSU's a huge factor there, but we'll see. But that's the big name. That's the big name that was on campus over the weekend. And Chris, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was a very not subtle hint from Brent, and I'll repeat it. I quoted it on the other night, but Brent said, was asked about all the recruits on campus, and he said, with the recruits, I think there's validation. They're looking for certain things, whether it's a quarterback that's looking for a place to call home with a certain style of offense. And there are many things we can say about the OU offensive effort on Saturday night, but QB centric would be an understatement. That if you're a quarterback, Ben Arbuckle's going to give you the ball and let you make plays.
Just to jump in there and say this right here, I think one of the things that kind of went unnoticed. One of the topics. There's so many topics that you could talk about with Arbuckle, especially this summer. All the different narratives. 29 years old, going to OU, going from Washington State, wasn't even an offensive coordinator all that long, young, this and that. So I think a lot of that overshadowed the fact that this guy has coached a bunch of guys that are in the league. Now, not going to say that all those guys are winners or starters in the league, what Zach Bailey's or guys like that. But at the same time, he did coach, he did produce a guy that we all know, Cam Ward. Now we know that Shanahan had his spin on that down there in Miami, kind of making that a finished product, I guess you could say. But early on, all the buzz was up there at Washington State. So Arbuckle has put guys, where they need to be. And I think it's very evident, and I think that recruits can see that from game 1 to game 2, there was definitely an uptick. And it wasn't necessarily just because you were playing you were playing Michigan. I think the thing is that this is a wide receiver and quarterback friendly offense. And the thing is that if you can get a run game going with it, I think it's going to be really dangerous. Chris Mason.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a high school quarterback looking at that offense, I think you saw Ben Arbuckle designing something that made John Mateer a star. And if I'm someone like Peyton Houston who thinks I'm a distributor of the football, OU's going to have wide receivers. I think it sells. So I would be surprised if OU did not help themselves with Peyton Houston on Saturday night with the fact that, everyone's talking about Ben Mateer this, Heisman Ben Mateer. I don't think that noise from Pat McAfee, Game Day, Josh Pate, all those voices and all those media members talking about Mateer's weekend can't hurt, right? OU has a tradition of good quarterbacks. We just fell off the wagon for a year, and it sure looks like Ben Mateer's putting us back into.
You keep saying Ben Mateer.
Sorry, John Mateer. I'm combining our guys. John Mateer. I think John Mateer's putting us back onto the. Is OU QBU? I don't know. There's 5 guys in the NFL who started the game over Saturday and today over the NFL opening weekend who played quarterback at OU. So I'd say OU has the claim to QBU as much as anybody. Mm-hmm. So I think John Mateer puts that stamp back on the Sooners.
So outside of like that, obviously Peyton Houston, that's a big name. What other names should we all be kind of paying attention to here in the coming days?
All right, well, I'm gonna rattle off, go through the 4 or 5 stars that were confirmed on campus for 2027. So the first one is Cooper Hackett. He was seen in Norman. He was seen wearing an OU polo. He's committed to Texas Tech. My sources tell me that OU strongly believes that they will have a massive opportunity to flip that commitment as time goes on. They are not overly concerned about his commitment right now and feel like when it's right and they have a chance to craft their message for Hackett, that they'll be able to flip him. Jalen Brewster was also on campus, the 6'4", 300-pound, 5-star defensive tackle. OU again definitely going after Brewster. They were the first to offer him. He's been on campus a bunch. Bates is heavily tied in with him. And again, quarterbacks, prospects watching that game probably loved what they see. And if you were a defensive tackle, I think you got to love the way OU's D-line attacked Michigan all night. And I'll get to a couple other names that talked about that in various interviews. But Jalen Brewster was on campus. Cooper Witten, the 5-star linebacker from the Dallas area, Jason Witten's son, 6'2", 215 range. Probably OU v. Tennessee v. probably maybe Texas, although another different SEC team might get involved. He's been at campus a number of times. He camped at OU, not this summer, but the previous summer. Witten and DeMarco are buddies, and Jason Witten has been a presence around the OU program ever since DeMarco's been on staff. So that's somebody to focus on. And again, linebacker play, great. If you're watching that as a linebacker, you're watching Heineke, Omosigo, Kobe, and Kip and Daniels. I don't know how that wasn't what can't be attractive to you. Then sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think one of the interesting pieces about this as well, especially, with these incoming freshmen and all the rest of the stuff, these commits, right? You got a chance to get on the field. I think that you seen freshman All-American last year, and I think you could potentially see one this year in Fasusi. Foje.
Well, and Cortland Guillory, too, if you keep playing like this.
We can't forget about him. So the whole thing is that you got to see the season unfold, and this is a staff that rewards opportunities to those who are doing what they need to do and are available, right? Yep.
And are playing. You practice, you work hard. Brent's going to put you on the field regardless of what your classification is. And then the surprise 5-star was Joshua Dobson, a cornerback from South Carolina. He's a top 10 player in the nation. He's 6'2", 180 pounds. He loved his visit, talking about a return visit to OU on Twitter. He knows Brent from his Clemson days. Apparently there's a connection there. And it looks like OU could be a player for him. And really, Jay Valai has done a good job restocking the OU cornerback room, right? We see the bodies, we see the athleticism, we see the talent. He hasn't quite ever gotten that elite cornerback. And that's being a little unfair because Tristan Haynes could be elite. Cortland's showing he could be elite. Eli's playing well. Played well, great last year. So it's a little unfair. But if you were nitpicking, you'd say, well, he hasn't ever signed like that elite 5-star type kind of guy. Well, Joshua Dobson would fit that category, so we'll see where OU is with him. Then OU had the two Elijahs visiting, Elijah Patman from Georgia and Elijah Harmon from California. They are both 6'3", 6'4", 300-pound off defensive tackles, top 200, top 150, top 125 type guys. Just great on film, exactly the guys you want OU to try and sign. And they both had huge visits, big visits to Norman. Loved Todd Bates. In an interview that Harmon had with, I believe it was Steve Wiltfong from On3, the two On3 sites, the two OU on sites make it a little difficult to track where stuff comes from. But I think it was Steve Wiltfong, might have been Adam Gorney. Harmon was just raving about his OU experience and how much he wants to get back to OU. For an official, for visits, and how much the defensive line, watching the OU defensive line terrorize and smash Michigan, how impressive it was. So a very familiar name to OU recruiting fans. Zane Rowe was back on campus. He and Miguel Chavis are tight. OU just needs to win, and I think if they continue to win, they're going to get Zane Rowe's commitment back. He's obviously a top 100 player, has offers from everywhere. Then we got 3 DBs I'm going to talk about. Montre Jackson from Garland, Texas, was back on campus. He's 6'1", 180, unbelievable frame, athleticism. He's been a star for OU's past 2 summer camps. Just an elite-looking guy, top 150, top 200, depending on what service you're looking at. Then Eli Johnson was on campus, 6'3", 200-pound safety from San Antonio. Top 100 guy, OU, Ohio State, and Texas won him. And then Khalil Terry, a safety from California, was on campus. He's a top 200 player, 6 foot, 180 pounds, elite-looking cover safety on film, has a lot of OU connections, a lot of buzz that OU might be grabbing a lead with him. And then, maybe the most interesting visitor just because of where he's from, Luke Starchevic was on campus. I'm hoping I'm saying that right because his name looks like it's Romanian or Serbian. We keep going there, but I probably offend any number of the Balkan Peninsula, Balkan area ethnic groups. But he's 6'5", 250, and he's huge. There's a photo of him next to, I think, Brent and Nagy, and the guy has a lean frame, but he just looks massive, Chris. He's 6'5", he may be taller than that, 250, defensive end, D-tackle. And obviously, if you're coming down from North Dakota for a game, you're pretty damn interested in being a Sooner. So there were 45 guys from the 2027 class. I've given you about 12 names there. I'm happy to talk about any other names that anybody wants to ask in our Q&A period. But that's 2027. So before I move to 2028, Chris, do you have any questions about anybody?
On that 2027 list or whatnot, I mean, I think the obvious question is who do you believe in your heart of hearts it will be a Sooner?
Well, it's tough to tell. It's 2027, so I'll tell you that everybody on that list I described, I feel like OU will be in the top 2, top 3, 4. Gotcha. If we're either going to be winners or bridesmaids. But I don't see any of these kids just eliminating OU, not considering OU. The only question is Joshua Dobson, the South Carolina kid, just because I just hadn't heard anything about his connections to OU. But, OU, this is where this win helps you, right? You've got somebody who doesn't know a lot about OU, comes to campus. Our fan base just knocked it out of the park in terms of noise during the game. But I think sometimes our fans don't realize the impact they have when recruits are walking around with their parents. And you heard Michigan fans talk about it, just how pleasant a game day experience it is, right? Fans, sure. Everyone's telling you have a good time. Hope you're having a good time. Enjoy Norman. We're happy you're here. And I know people think that stuff is kind of, I don't know, hokey and cliche, but if you're a parent coming from, and you got these are 2027 kids, so the majority of them are 16, right? I mean, they're high school juniors. They're not they just started their junior year. So and they haven't gone on official visits anywhere. They're not really jaded by the recruiting process. Let's just put it that way. Not yet. So these guys walking around campus, seeing all the tailgating, seeing all the fans, seeing all the noise. It was a great setting Saturday night from TV and from the people I've talked to in person. It was a great setting, great weather. These are the sort of visits where you have somebody who doesn't know that much about OU, comes in, Gerald McCoy is doing the intro. You've got stars, OU, alums everywhere. Every important college football media person was in Norman on Saturday night. And all that stuff, I think, has an impact. And then you play a great game. If you're Joshua Dobson, you're watching and you're, sort of 2 years removed from Cortland Guillory, and you see Cortland Guillory out there, and you see Gentry Williams flying out there, and the OU host you have says, by the way, that's a true freshman starting at cornerback in 2 years. That could be you. So you don't know. But I think Dobson's the only one I have a question about. But OU certainly did everything they could in terms of nailing every element in order to push, that OU's a blue blood, OU's an elite program. Mm-hmm. We're in the SEC, so your family can come to OU games and see SEC teams. We'll be playing in South Carolina. We'll be playing in Georgia. We'll be playing in Alabama. They can come to road games and see you. So I think that'll be the interesting story to track. But the rest of the 11 guys I sort of mentioned there, I think OU is either in the lead or will be in the top 2 or 3 for the majority of them. Guys like Montre Jackson, Zane Rowe, Eli Johnson, and Khalil Terry, I think OU could be in the lead after this weekend. Peyton Houston, we just have to see, but I think barring some craziness, I think OU lands Peyton Houston on 9-15. So that's 2027 taken care of in terms of those guys. There were another 20 players. Chris, I could go on for another 2 hours about the guys that were visiting on 2027. There are some absolute gems that OU offered. There were in-state kids like Caden Penny that were on campus, all kinds of stuff. So we can get to some of this stuff in the Q&A. Biggie's asking a good question about Titus Hawk, which I'd like to get back to.
Let's get that. We'll circle back to all of that. Let's go to the 28 kids, because remember, we're going to keep this pod short.
Yep, trying to. Too much content. So 2028, the first name is Kellen Hall, 5-star defensive tackle, top 10 player in the nation, from Kentucky, coming back to Norman for the second time in 6 months. He was a star at OU summer camp, and now he's back for a game. Loves Todd Bates, loves what he sees from the OU D-line. Then Gage Weddle, safety, 5-star from California, San Diego area. His dad is a 6-time All-Pro, Eric Weddle. His dad is like best friends with Tony Jefferson and knows Jim Nagy. And if you watch our safeties play, I think there's an easy sell for Gage Weddle. Come be the next all-star safety for us. Billy Bowman's in the pros making plays. Come be the next big safety for us. Micah Rhodes from Houston was on campus. He's a top 50 player in the nation. 5'9", 185-pound running back. Cortland Guillory's teammate. And you got to imagine Rhodes seeing his buddy starring out didn't hurt OU. He loves DeMarco. And then the Tulsa area guy who came in, He is Xavier's teammate, is Camion Compton-Nero. He's 6'2", 185 pounds, athlete, could be a cornerback, could be a wide receiver. Could be a wide receiver or a cornerback. He plays quarterback right now for Rejoice Christian just because he's the best athlete on the team. OU summer camp, he was an elite performer out there. So OU got him back on campus, and he is talking up OU on social media left and right. If there's any person who could be the first 2028 verbal commit, it could be Camion Compton-Nero. So that's my blazing through all the big names that were on campus there, Chris.
All right. Guys, if you got any questions, go ahead, throw those in the chat now. Again, we're going to try to keep these pods short, but we'll open it up for Q&A now. We'll go back to Biggie's question now.
Okay, so he was on campus. He had a good visit, talking up OU. I think Hawk has a lot of OSU connections. His dad, I believe, played baseball at OSU. But you got to think, first off, Kanik at tight end is really helping OU with tight end recruiting, right? The kid's making plays, making big plays. So if you were Hawk, you were certainly OU was as casually as possible highlighting the differences between OU and OSU right now. OU's beating Michigan, and Oregon is doing, X-rated stuff to Oklahoma State out in Eugene. I mean, that you should have to. You should have to be over 18 to watch to watch those highlights. It's like a bad 80s slasher movie. What Oregon did to Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State looks like they're in disarray and they're going to have to figure out. What they're doing. So I think those leave an opening for OU to grab a lead for Titus Hawk. Now, everybody wants him. He's a 6'7" tight end. He's 220, 225 with great speed for his size and athleticism. So OU's got two good tight ends coming in 2026. I think Hawk is a natural complement to those guys. Mm-hmm. And if you watched what we did, Arbuckle wants to use block and receiving tight ends. He wants to use the tight end as a weapon to counter stuff. So I think Arbuckles did a good job selling tight end to Hawk, and I'm sure OU, like I said, it's almost one of those, you don't have to point out how bad OSU looks right now, right? You don't have to say anything. It's like, and OU beating Michigan, game day, you can come here and do this, or you can go to OSU and who knows who your coach will be, who knows what will go on. So that's the situation I think OU was able to pitch to Hawk.
Does I'll jump in and ask a question, guys. If you got any questions, go ahead and ask. Maybe it didn't resonate with me or whatnot. But was my guy there for the Michigan game? Was Zane Rowe there?
Yes, he was.
Okay, awesome.
And he's not saying too much because he wants to enjoy his recruiting experience. So he's trying to downplay the probability that he might, he's trying to visit other campuses and do the things he didn't do when he verbaled a little early. I think when it rolls back to like nut crunching decision time, he's going to have a hard time as long as OU's playing well. And again, if I'm Zane Rowe, I'm watching those defensive ends crash, attack, and dominate. I think he's gonna have a hard time telling Miguel Chavis no when it comes to decision time.
Does he flirt with the idea of playing tight end? I know you've probably seen those videos just like I have. All those people trying to hype him up at tight end as well.
I think overall, I think you've got Hawk and Kohler to recruit at tight end. So I think you stick with him at defensive end. Although you are right, he's playing some tight end and looks pretty good doing it. But I think you leave him at defensive end, and that's where you have. I mean, Miguel's already got such a great relationship with him. To try and bring Joe John in to the picture, I think is probably OU needs to ride and die. I think with Miguel Chavis recruiting him at the defensive end position.
Mm-hmm. So Dwayne Oakletree doesn't necessarily have a question, but I'm gonna make a question out of it. So he says Bentley did not help 26 class and 8-4 versus better offenses and good defenses. He says hopefully this is a step in the right direction, so negative recruiting disappears. Chris
Yeah,
Mason, I don't think negative recruiting is going to disappear just yet, but I think for a moment it paused.
it definitely if you're trying to recruit OU negatively when everybody in the national media is saying OU had a great weekend, it kind of falls flat, right? And and if you were on campus seeing everything that you saw, I think you're kind of like, well, I was just at OU and I watched them dominate Michigan. What the hell are you talking about? So if you were negative recruiting OU, you got to basically stick that message in a drawer for 2 weeks. Now, if OU struggles against Auburn, you can maybe bring it out, but you for now you've got to basically file 13 it and try and focus on some other elements because teenagers know bullshit when they hear it and they see it. And if you're saying OU struggling and you were in Norman in person watching OU play a fantastic game against Michigan, who they know is a national championship team, and they all know that they have Underwood and been hearing all about how Underwood is the next generational talent, to use that overused term lately. I think negative recruiting took a big hit. If you're negatively recruiting OU, you just took a big hit. And if OU puts some more wins on the board, you're going to have to just file it away and try some other stuff.
Yep. Again, guys, the goal is to be 4-0 going into the bye week. I think that's a very important thing, especially for college kids. You guys got to understand when you're in those college locker rooms, one of the best things is that if you go into the bye week with a win, that means you get extra rest. You get time to just focus on yourself for just a little bit of breathing room before you get right back to it at practice and get back to the hitting and doing all the rest of the stuff. That's a big thing. With that being said, people are going to jump into some real many. I see people on OU Twitter. I see people on the gram, a lot of different places. Some people are not necessarily nervous. People are not necessarily saying this is a trap game. I've seen some people try to put that, but this could be a letdown game. Obviously, 2023 beat Texas, came back against UCF, and it was abysmal performance. It kind of foreshadowed some of the things that happened at Kansas and Oklahoma State, right? Regardless, though, this Temple team they're better than what they were last year. They're better than I would say they're a step above Illinois State. But what I would say is that you may be able to actually establish a run game against UMass and against Howard. Yes, they beat those teams handily, but UMass was moving that rock on the ball. They were moving that ball on the ground. They were moving that ball on the ground. You can stop the pistol stuff. They like to run there's some unique stuff they like to do with that pistol set. They really love hitting that tight end over the middle. They got a tight end from overseas that's pretty good. They have some decent receivers, but again, this is a game right here that shows you, hey, is OU ready to take that next step? Because what this is just a maturity test, right? So gotta make sure. I don't know why, Benji. I have no idea why OU Twitter is in an uproar about, oh, we gotta make sure this and that. We're playing on the road, 11 a.m., this and that. BV will have these boys ready. And then also, I think Arbuckle is the X factor. Arbuckle's not going to let those guys come out there and be flat. So just wanted to give you that. We'll talk about that on Thursday. Chris Mason, you got anything else for us?
Just that, there's still updates coming in from the weekend. I didn't expect the verbal that it looks like OU is going to get. Maybe a couple other kids fall after this weekend. It was a huge moment for OU, and OU executed it flawlessly from a recruiting standpoint. It's hard to think about a position that couldn't look at that game on Saturday and think, OU's where I should go, OU's where I can play. And that's and be successful. And that's what you want to say. That's the message you want to give. And it was just, I was afraid that we were going to throw a stinker out there and lose all of this momentum with all of these kids. Instead, you knocked it out of the park and did a great job. in terms of message. Also, I guess one last thing, Chris, that I haven't mentioned too much on this pod is that you saw Nagy with a lot of recruits. So on these sort of game day experiences, Nagy and his staff can do a lot of the heavy lifting away from Venables and the coaching staff, right? They can do a lot of the hosting that was previously on the head coach and the coaching staff for game day. But now our scouting staff can take that over. And when you have recruits and they're talking to Lake Dawson, who is a 20-year NFL pro veteran, and they're talking to Nagy, who ran the Senior Bowl, and Nagy knows these kids inside and out. He's looked at their film. He can give them tips on what they need. I mean, Nagy can basically say, I've watched you on film. This is your NFL potential. And if you have any question about why I think that, here's my resume. And you go. So I think it's you saw a different element in terms of kids talking about Nagy, Lake Dawson, Stacy Ford. They were all involved with the guys. So in terms of being able to take the load off game day from the coaching staff, from Venables and Arbuckle and all those guys, so that Brent has been hesitant to use big recruiting moments for football games in terms of bringing kids in. But I think with our good home schedule and with Nagy and that staff able to take that load off of him, I think Brent will be much more receptive to having these kind of big weekends where we're like, oh my God, we had 75 people from Michigan. We're getting 50 for Auburn. Just using all those things, using all those resources and additional hires to allow OU to maximize the game day experience. Where OU puts on a great event. It's a great, the fans are doing a good job. It's the walk to the stadium, the tailgating upgrades they've done appear to be making a big impact from everybody I've talked to. So I just think we're seeing a change there.
All right. Well, people, look, you heard that. You know where you can like, subscribe. You can do all those different things. Horns Down Podcast and Sooners 360 himself. Chris Mason has a Patreon. Chris Mason, how much it is to subscribe?
It is $2. You get all of the recruiting content that I post on my Patreon site, all the in-depth information. And the Patreon site helps me keep my podcast free. So if you like my podcast and you want to continue to enjoy that podcast for free, Patreon is the way you can support me.
All right. Well, I guess with that being said, we're going to play this real quick, and then we'll get up out of here.
He's still missing.
Benji, if you can, please tell us where this man is at. We have no idea. I have no idea where this guy is at. Bevo's bodyguard, if you hear this, if you see this, please let us know where you're at. All right, people. It's time.
We'll
see you guys
We'll
later.
be back here again. I'll be posting my podcast Wednesday night. Just waiting for the recruiting information to just come more in. But we'll be back here again next Monday. You got recruiting questions, you have your platform to ask them.
All right. See you guys.